That's a dog in a Melly. I love her so much.
Oh, matching clothes.
I
They do
love
say
I
you end up looking like your dog. Or does your dog end up looking like you?
Welcome back to Colors of Crutch. My name is Max Sternberg, also known as Wounded Satellite. I'm joined by my amazing co-host, Jordan Drake, Steel Dragon. How you doing today, Jordan?
It's been a good day. It's been a good day. My power's been out a decent part of the day, but that's
That's a,
it's a
that's
modern
a
world
bad
problem.
day.
It got
But
hot, like muggy hot.
it was a really warm one. I mean, not everywhere. Denver wasn't too bad. I'm really not looking forward to when I get back from this weekend in Arizona because Monday it's going to be 95 degrees here, and my office's central AC is still broken. And because so we touch an outer ring hallway type thing. So the people whose offices are on the like wall to the outside side all got ACs because those were the priority because their offices were crazy hot. I'm on the inner ring, which was better in the miserable days when we had nothing and we're dying, but is much worse now when the other offices all have ACs and I don't. So I'm really not looking forward to Monday. It's probably going to be a miserable one. It'll be 95 here in Denver. Today we're going to be talking about a lot of what happened this past weekend, a bunch of tournament breakdowns from our time over in Nashville, Tennessee. But before we talk about what happened this past weekend, we got to talk about the things that are coming up. I don't know about you. You can go over your next events coming up in a second. But for me, I will be in Phoenix, Arizona this weekend. I believe literally flying in the day this video is released. And then 2 weeks later, and that tournament in Phoenix, Arizona is Cradle to the Guild. And then 2 weeks later on a Sunday is going to be Mortal Kombat 1, hosted by the guys over at Critical EDH at a Dave & Buster's here in Denver, Colorado. Nothing better than waking up in my bed and driving to a big tournament rather than going through all the normal travel.
At Dave & Buster's, too, that's a pretty unique cEDH location. So, like, you can lose your round, go drown yourself in video games and beer, and then come back and lose again, is what I'm hearing.
The question is, get tilted or get tipsy?
Or both.
Or both. That was the same question. That was the question Eric hit me with, and what you said is my answer to what he said.
Like, we'll if I have to be there and I have to be 0-3, and my boys are still playing, at least let me drink, right? Like that's the minimum that we ask for.
I mean, if you happen to spill a beer on their opponent's deck as their opponent's winning, fucking.
Bro, we're trying to make
no. Don't do that. Don't do that. Absolutely no. You leave that in. I'll give a shit. But yeah, what events do you have coming up, Jordan? Where can people find you?
I actually have a really busy June. So on the 14th, I'm playing in Raleigh, North Carolina at the place called the Gathering Place. Every month they do a dual land tourney, so we'll be doing that. And then my local game store is hosting one of their first cEDH events. So they did one of the Black Lotus Invitationals, and they will now be hosting their second one, which is a Bronze-a-thon. That'll be June 21st at the Comic Dimension in Greensboro, North Carolina. And then we will be heading up to Virginia for River City Rumble. Man in the Bank, our buddy Chris is hosting a tournament up there. So we're pretty excited. It's going to be a jam-packed June, lots of events and lots of fun stuff we'll be doing.
Chris Foucault?
No, it's a different Chris.
Oh, okay.
Honestly,
okay.
his last name is escaping me, but he plays Orvar. He ran a booth at the Black Lotus event out there.
Oh, nice. Okay, sick.
Yeah, cool guy, awesome guy. I'm pretty excited for his event.
Oh, that'll be sick. And this past weekend, what did you play in?
So I got to play in the Black Lotus Invitational. Was super excited to be there. Really, again, just can't appreciate enough how much work LandGo events put into this. Everything from the super awesome like rings they gave out to the winners to the coins they give out to the Invitational players. Having a really cool convention space, lots of good vendors with lots of cool cards. Even the lady that I cannot remember her name. It's like Winona or
Winona Nelson.
Thank you.
I was the artist for Timna. Yeah.
Exactly. She was there, which was awesome. I got to have my Timna signed. So overall, really, really fun weekend. I did not perform super hot, but I honestly don't think I've had this much fun playing Magic in a hot minute. Everything from like Thursday night flying in, we were already jamming games in the hotel with some of my friends from like Tennessee and Western North Carolina, guys like Zay and Raven, and we were just cracking up, having a good time, laughing. Then through the tournament, just there was a lot of really fun Magic to be played. Like I said, didn't perform the way I wanted to in the Invitational, but had a blast doing it.
Yeah, no, the Invitational seemed like an awesome event. Great tournament setup overall for both events. I mean, I was really confused how they were going to go about having these two super large events at the same time in the same place, but they did a phenomenal job setting everything up. The flow was good. There were no big issues. There was no big waiting times for like unnecessary stupid reasons during the rounds. Like everything kept moving, everything kept flowing. They did a really good job overall just hosting the entirety of the event.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of negativity surrounding stuff, and we'll touch on some of the controversies that's come out of this weekend. But really, you just can't say enough good things about it. It did run, from my perspective, flawless. The 20-minute timer issue didn't really pop up all that much in terms of like it really helped, I think, smooth over the day. Like every round was kind of popping off, and there weren't these long wait times going on in between things. I'd say my only downside, and it really again had nothing to do with them, was I didn't get to see a lot of my friends that were playing in the Open just because the events were kind of happening. Basically, as soon as the Invitational was done, the Open was going into their next round. So they had them on like different schedules. So that was a little. I didn't get to see a lot of the people. Like I barely even saw my wife Lily during the day while she was playing. But I mean, that's just the structure they did. I did get to see, I was there with some of my friends that are also in the Invitational, so that was cool getting to hang out with people and do that stuff. But I think overall, right, the logistics of it was really, really well run. Being in that hotel conference rooms, it just made it really smooth. I really, again, just can't say enough good things about how flawless and how nice it felt like everything was going.
Yeah, overall went great, and I barely got to see you either. And one of the
No.
one of the other big changes for this event, it was I think the first really big event that was having the true 20-minute time limit
Yeah, and that's what I
for
was referencing.
overtime.
Yeah.
Yeah, which specifically did screw over your wife, Lily, right at the end there. Who, if there was not that 20-minute time limit, or if the rounds were just a little bit longer, she 100% wins her round 7 game and is into top 16. So there's the unfortunate side of things where sometimes it's gonna hurt people who are in winning positions, and then what it does allow is the tournament to flow a lot more appropriately. And I know that's a big topic of conversation lately of things finishing at reasonable times. But let's get a little bit into the events themselves. Overall, you said your tournament didn't go as you might have hoped. Obviously, the record, not the best you've ever done. You've taken down huge events before. You still had a great time playing. What were some key moments, some key things that happened during your tournament? Anything that really stuck out to you?
Yeah, I'd say there was like a few big ones. I think obviously round one, I already kind of got off to a rough start. I had to mold a 3 and then was kind of playing off my back foot because I was in seat 3. So we drew that game. My overall record for everyone was 1-3-1, 1 win, 3 losses, and a draw. So right off the bat, getting a draw wasn't the worst thing, especially from the position I had started in. It was a little frustrating because I had my otter and a bird and retraction helix, and I was just looking for any rock that I could start looping because I had the bird and I had the otter. I just needed a rock. Could have been a chrome mox. I didn't even need to pitch anything to it. I had infinite mana if I could just find anything, and I couldn't find it in the time. And I think if I hadn't had to mulch solo, it probably would have been a little bit better of a game because the way it unfolded for the other 3 players, they also kind of started off really slow. So being able to like have an explosive start might have changed that game. So that was a little frustrating. Game 2, I was just too aggressive. I tried to push an early Hazel, and there was a Bowmaster that just really kept me off of Devoted Druid. There was a moment where like I had a chance to tutor up anything. I'd put a Black Tutor on the stack, and I chose Swift reconfiguration, hoping to just be able to double up on my win attempt. Like, okay, if they stop Swift, I can immediately kill my Devoted Druid and then go into Hazel and try to just close out the game really fast. Like I was saying before, though, the OBM came down and really just screwed that plan up. And had I just maybe gone more of a value engine, I think I can probably pull that game out, especially with Wanda
Why
kind of.
why does the OBM screw that plan?
Because it killed my Devoted Druid before I had a chance to ever deploy the Swift. I didn't
Oh,
have the
so it would
mana.
have just been the Hazels. Okay.
And I did end up throwing down the Hazels, and I got hit with a hard cast Mindbreak Trap with Veil of Summer Protection in hand. which was immensely frustrating because I thought, and that had come right after a huge counter war. So I thought I was getting one, getting one over on them. And I was like, oh my God, bro. Like the one card that I just did not have an answer for in hand, of course, is what he had. And hard cast too, right? Because I was like, that's the first spell I'm casting. So that was a very frustrating game. Blue Farm ended up taking that game. He played very, very well, baited it out perfectly. So, hats off to him. It kind of went that way. So tough. Game 3 was tough. Was really, really tough for me. I had a really good board position. Felt really strong going into it. I made 2 very critical mistakes that probably cost me the game. The first one was on my turn. I misread the situation on the board. I felt like the Derevi player had a lot more interaction than he actually had. I don't actually think he had anything. And then the Rockgrass player to my left, who had kind of struggled getting off the starting block, I was thinking maybe he still had a single piece of interaction he was sitting on, but all he had was a Flare Duplication. I had 2 pieces of interaction and a Culling Ritual in hand. And I thought about deploying the Culling Ritual because I had Nature's Rhythm. So on the spot, if that Culling Ritual goes off, I just win the game with Nature's Rhythm. I misinterpreted the board, though, and I believed, okay, there's too much interaction for me to fight through here, so I'm not going to deploy this Culling Ritual. I'll pass turn and see where we kind of land if I can get people to start attacking the Blue Farm player because he had a Voice of Victory. I was hoping maybe there'd be more of a stack battle over there, and then I could deploy the Culling Ritual behind that. It never got back to my turn after I passed to it. The Derevi player ended up winning on his turn. There was a little bit of controversy on this because I do feel I was lied to during the turn. And, understand that sometimes this happens in cEDH. It's not against the rules. It's something that when you make a deal, the judges are very, very clear with you. Your opponents do not have your best interests at heart. And so when you make a deal or when you're discussing something with someone, there is always that voice in the back of your mind you have to have of they could go back on this and I need to be ready for them to do so. And so I got a little greedy in my turn and I tried not to deploy a pact of negation that I had. The Derevi player was trying to storm off. We stopped them a couple different ways. At the very end of their turn, they deployed a Chromatic Ori and said they wanted to hold this up for a Talon Gates that we basically knew they had in hand. They hadn't said it, but they said, I have something that I need exactly 4 mana for to deal with Voice of Victory. And I mean, there's not a lot of options, right?
4 mana, you say.
Exactly. And you have a Derevi. So what do you need 4 mana for? Exactly. We pretty much assumed it was Talon Gates, and it was. He showed it at the end. I felt like during the discussion about the Chromatic Ori, because I did think about countering it with a Pact Negation, that he basically was saying, well, don't hit it because I want to keep it up for mana. He immediately then taps it for Spellseeker, and I asked, okay, so what are you getting? And then he kind of imitates that he's getting interaction to deal with the Blue Farm when the Blue Farm starts to push. I get a little suspicious here, but I'm like, okay, what are we doing? He then grabs Neoform. And I guess at this point, all the alarm bells are ringing, but then he's talking about, oh, well, maybe I grab Gilded Drake and take the Voice of Victory. And he puts it on the stack and he sacks it. He sacks the Spellseeker. And I don't know why. I should have just countered that and just been done with it. I really didn't want to deploy the Pact, though, because if I deployed the Pact, I wasn't going to be able to win on my turn. Or it wasn't that I was going to be able to win. It was going to be very, very tight. I'd already had to use a lot of my interaction. We didn't really know what the Blue Farm player had. He ended up showing me his hand kind of late into that. And he didn't have anything. Right? There was no world in which he was probably going to push on his turn. Just didn't have the pieces. So I do feel a little stupid on my part. I should have just countered what he was doing. By the time it went down, I was a little annoyed because he said, oh, well, I didn't feel like I made a deal. But then, I don't know. Like there was a discussion. I do feel lied to. He says he doesn't really feel lied to. The Blue Farm player says that he lied and, just own it. You won, whatever. It's not that big of a deal. The Rockfest player says he was open to interpretation. And so I don't want to call the guy a liar because maybe it was just a misinterpretation of the events that happened, that transpired. But, at the end, I thought it was a little weird, but he's like, oh, well, if I did make a deal, just show me the interaction. I'll take it back. But it's like, we're in professional REL, bro. Like, you can't just take that back. That's not how this works. It's not like you've already shuffled your deck. You've already put the Phyrexian Metamorph on the battlefield, right? Like, there's not a way to walk that back at this point. And even so, like, what are we walking it back to? Like, you're going to sack something else. Like, a lot of steps have progressed, and I got that really, really ticked me off a little bit. But at the end of the day, it's on me, right? I should have just countered.
It's really important to be considerate of the wording that's happening when something feels like a deal versus is a deal, because there's sometimes that things are discussed with hypothetical intention. And it sounds like that might be what happened here. Obviously, we're not there. We can't replay the tape. So we can't say for sure, like, this was a clearly worded deal. You're saying if I let this resolve, you are just going to pass the turn and hold up interaction for blue farm. Because that would have been my initial reaction when he says, oh, I'm just doing this to have mana for blue farm. I would have said, so to be clear, if this resolves, you are going to pass the turn and hold that up. Like, that's the kind of wording I would normally go for there, and I'd literally make him shake on it. I'm very big, especially in tournaments with people I don't know and I'm not used to. If I'm in a game with you, I can not be so serious about making a deal. Like, I can just say words to you and I know you're going to be good for it. But for someone I don't know, I tend to, like, literally make them shake my hand and look me in the eyes, because it's way less likely that people lie when they do that kind of stuff.
Right.
It seems like yours was a little more open to interpretation. It seemed like he was talking with the, oh, I could hypothetically do this, while not really putting himself in a position where he has to stick to what he said. That's what it kind of sounds like to me.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's weird, right? Because me and the blue farm player interpreted it as I'm getting interaction, I'm not winning, and then him and the rock dash player both kind of saying like, well, we didn't really feel like that was necessarily how it played out, and that's why I say I feel lied to. I'm not necessarily saying that I was lied to, because
sure.
I don't. Yeah, it was a very fast moving game. A lot is happening. I was getting a little upset at the end of the way it was playing out, and so I don't want to look back and be like, oh, that dude's a liar, and call him out and all this stuff, because maybe I just misinterpreted the way things were. Either way, he pulled out the win, ended up dropping at that point to 0-2-1, and I knew it was going to need to be 2 straight wins to try and push into the top 16. Not impossible, right? I've done it before. So I didn't feel bad going out of that round, because I was in a really dominant position. Felt like I'd played well and just made a little bit of a mistake there. And then I was like, okay, so the deck is fine. I'm playing fine. I just need to clean that up, and we'll be good for the rest of the day. Round 4, round 4 was crazy, because the Kinnan player, before I even had a turn 3, went Basalt. I countered it with a Fierce. He hit me with the Pact Negation, Fabricate, game over. End of I didn't even see a turn 3. And I was seat 2.
Good way to close it out.
So I had, my first 3 games were 3 straight seat 3s, and then I finally had a seat 2, and I was like, all right, I'm feeling pretty good. I have a very good win percentage from seat 2. And then that happened, and I was like, what can you do? I mulliganed for interaction. I held it up, ready for an early Basalt just in case. And, he just had it. He had the nuts. Sometimes it just goes that way. What can you do? But then
magic, bro.
Yeah, right? Like, it's a game of variables, and sometimes those variables just don't pan out in your favor. But then I had a really fun game 5. I was playing with my buddy TK, and we ended up just laughing and joking around most of the game. Both of him and I had a really rough start to that game. Thankfully, I ended up drawing into a 1 ring. We both ended up rolling low. So I drew into a 1 ring, which put me back into the game. And from there, I was able to gain control of it. TK did not, and spent the rest of the game doodling Pokemon on infinity tokens. Yeah, so he ended up drawing all these cool tokens here for us while the game was progressing, just to tell you how out of it, unfortunately, he was. As he said, this perfectly encapsulated his entire day, that particular game, because he was also having a little bit of a rough one. So I ended up in a dominant position, ended up deploying a Seedborn out. We were playing against an Ashdon player who did have a good push on the end to try and just beat me to the punch there, but we had enough interaction to stop him. Came back around to my turn, and from there, I think everyone scooped before I even deployed a win. I just kind of showed, hey, I've got like 30 mana and 30 cards. Like, are we good? And everyone's like, yeah, whatever.
So, you finished with a dub.
I did finish with a dub to make the day at least feel a tad bit better.
It's better than a loss. Overall, right. Fun tournament, though.
I would say so, yeah. I mean, like I said, a little outside of game 3 and some of the feelings there, I had a great time, a fantastic time. Games 2 and 4, sometimes it just swings that way where you don't pull it out the way you thought you did. They just have the cards that you're not expecting them to have. I don't think there's definitely mistakes I made in probably both games 2 and 4 and 3 for sure. Oh, not 4 as much, 2 and 3 that probably cost me going into top 16. I do feel like if I clean it up in rounds 3 especially, then I'm probably sitting in a much better position going into rounds 4 and 5. And at that point, I'm just chasing 1 win instead of needing 2. But live and learn. So otherwise, I had a great time.
Oh yeah, always good to learn. And you did have a fun time at the redemption event. It was a super casual one. People were just having a good time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got to play my buddy's TK's Rock Thrash list. Had a great time doing it. Unfortunately, I lost a round because homie doesn't play Fairy Mastermind or Wheel of Fortune in his list, which he has since fixed. thankfully, after I told him about my situation. But I was stuck in time with a billion tappy squirrels trying to kill the one guy with the One Ring, and literally looking at every single card in this deck, being like, "Brother, where is your cards? I need to kill this
Nothing.
guy." I'm like, I
Nothing,
can
bro.
loop the entire deck through my hand. I can loop it back into the. I can literally take every card, loop it from my graveyard to my hand, back into the deck, and it does not matter. I cannot find a way out of this.
Nope. Sometimes you just can't beat One Ring protection, which I'm a huge believer in, like, not needing a way to beat One Ring protection. It's come up literally 0 times in a tournament for me ever, but unfortunate that it actually mattered to you in this moment.
Yeah.
I do remember it almost mattered once in round 1 at Fishbowl when a guy went to play a One Ring right before it went to time, and I had to use like a fucking pact on it just because I knew I was going to try and win on my turn and we were going to be at time, and I was like, fuck, like I don't care about this card at all. like
You're like, please, you're making me use an interaction here. I don't want to use.
Yeah, no, I mean, we got there. It didn't matter. That was the one I won through an Angel's Grace on Kidden, which was super cool.
That's always fun.
It was super fun. It was super fun. Fortunately, my tournament did go a bit better. I was able to make it all the way to Final Four. Did not win in the finals. Not going to spend a ton of time. Thank you. I'm not going to spend a ton of time going through every single round. I'll talk about some fun key things that happened. Round 1 was just a thank you deck version. I kept a pretty sick Molda 6. It was Land, Gaia's Cradle, Training Grounds, Biomancer's Familiar, one other solid card. Oh, Candelabra, and a random fucking throwaway Brain Freeze, which, the conversation with Breach LED Brain Freeze in the deck is often that they're just such dead cards you sometimes have. And it looked like it was one of those, but I'll happily keep 2 lands, one of them being a Guy's Cradle, Candelabra, Training Grounds, Biomancers. Like, that's a sick hand. I was on the play round 1. I was like, oh shit, this man is about to set the fuck up.
That is disgusting.
Like, so I keep that 6. And then I think it was the TNT player to my left in second seat also mulled the 6. And like right after keeping, he just like threw his hand really far forward while he was looking at it, where I'm not trying to look at this man's hand. He just put it like straight to almost the middle of the table. And I see Swift Recon, Meme Bet, Fierce, Culling Ritual. And I'm like, oh, fuck. like Culling Ritual, like Culling Ritual obliterates the hand I've kept. I'm so fucking screwed. And I have no interaction to stop it. I just kept the mana hand. Fortunately, my turn 2 draw happened to be a card called Underworld Breach. My first Thrasios activation of the game happened to be a card called LED. So I happen to have the full Breach combo. And then on the turn I untapped and was thinking about doing it, I said, let me activate Thrasios once for funsies before I decide to throw down this Breach. And top card, Veil of Summer, baby. So I literally threw down Veil of Summer with the only cards in my hand being Breach, LED, and Brain Freeze. And they let it go because they were like 3 cards in hand. Like, what does this even do? And then they had nothing anyway. And so I was able to just go, cool, Breach, LED, Brain Freeze, pass. So I was able to get a dub in round 1 there. Really was just kind of a free win with those circumstances and lucky draws. Thank you, deck, for giving back what I give you. If you foil out your deck, it treats you better. That's the way to think about it.
That's not always true, okay?
It's always been true for me, dude. Kinnan treats me good until I get to top 16.
I've been shoveling foils into TNT like it is a fucking freight train, right? And it is.
You got to use the right ones. When you give it that Portuguese OG foil Brain Freeze, it just finds its way to your hand.
Okay.
But that was good.
I have to be able to read my cards, okay?
That's fair. Round 2, pretty simple. I was able to assemble Seedborn One Ring when One Ring was already on 3. So that just puts me into this dominant, incredible value position. It was a good scenario to actually talk about, when you have it pretty locked up, but you still want to do things as safely as possible. Here's how I phrased it to my opponents when I untapped on my turn, and I played a couple of things. I said, are you willing to concede? Because I obviously had it, right? I played a few spells to kind of set up the fact that I could win the game, but didn't want to officially put the win condition on the stack. And I said, would you guys like to concede? I am more than happy to play this out if you want me to. I just am going to let you know that if you want me to play it out, I'm going to do it very meticulously, and it's probably going to take a while. And I know some people get mad at that because they ask the question, are you fishing for if they have interaction? I knew my opponents were gassed at this point, and I had, I think, 6 or 7 counterspells in hand. It was I have it deterministically. I just wanted to offer saving time just for the sake of saving time. They said, play it out. I proceeded to masturbate for 10 minutes, putting Cloud of Fairies of Cradle on the battlefield, a flesh duplicate Cloud of Fairies, bestowed that flesh duplicate Cloud of Fairies, put a Displacer Kitten, made about 100 mana, and then was like, okay, now would you guys like to concede, or do you want me to keep doing this? And I know that that might seem like overkill, but when you are in a tournament for money, you want to set yourself up as safely as possible. And so I will do that. I will literally play through my whole deck just to make sure that I have 8 possible win lines, and there is nothing anyone could do with any niche piece of interaction to possibly stop me. So that's what I went for there.
I actually want to talk about that because I think this is actually a really good lesson for newer players as well. If someone asks you to play out your win, always play it out as optimally as possible. And I'll tell you why. I have a story here. So my buddy Chris, this is actually a different Chris than one we were talking about earlier, the one that Max actually referenced. So he's playing in a local tournament, and we have another friend of ours who is playing against him, and Chris is basically putting together a deterministic win here. He's got infinite mana with Kinnan Basalt. He's going crazy with his Kinnan list. He's basically got it locked up, but they are in time, and homie starts to basically show that he might have. Maybe they weren't in time. Maybe they were doing something else. I don't remember 100% the situation here, but either way, he ended up deploying an Angel's Grace that Chris had known about and was planning to play around. And because he basically shortcutted a bunch of stuff, he played right into it and was unable to then pivot back to being able to win and had to take the draw. And I think this is a great example of when you are asked to play it out, do not shortcut. Do not take, if people say you can go ahead and shortcut this, say, well, I need to make sure that I'm not going to be interacted with during my shortcut. Unless if they're willing to say, you're good to do the entire thing, I will not interact in any way, then you're good to do it. But I highly recommend you just play out your lines to the best of your ability. Play it as meticulously as possible. And to that way, you can ensure that you do not walk into one of these weird situations where someone is waiting all the way down the line to gotcha. Play it out as safely as possible, and you will come out better most of the time than you would have if you try to shortcut it and just be lazy about it. Because there are players who will just get you at the very end of that line that otherwise they wouldn't have and shouldn't have, because you would have had all the resources at your disposal already.
Yeah, totally fair. I mean, I think it's fine to also say, like, rather than shortcutting to a specific point, once you've like assembled infinite mana on something like Kinnan or Thrasios or whatever you're doing there, you can just say, here's a win line I would like to present. I'm not saying I'm shortcutting to this position. I'm just offering, if you guys accept this as a concession to save time, I would like to imagine I put all my creatures out with Kinnan. I would like to put out Hullbreaker, Glenelender, Voidwind, or Spellsky to clone a Spellsky to clone a Glenelender, or whatever. I would like to finale you guys for infinite damage. Do you accept this line? If not, we can keep playing it out. And if they say no, then just keep doing your thing optimally. But yeah, it's good to practice playing out your lines as well. Know the different things you can pivot to based on certain types of interactions. It's a really good brain puzzle. It's good to face down those situations because they will make you a better player. Round 3, another win. Fortunately, I was able to start off this tournament 3-0. This one was on stream, so you can actually go back and watch this one on Critical EDH's YouTube channel in the live section. This one was I first seat? No, I was third seat. It went Rafine in first seat, Blue Farm in second seat, myself in third seat, and Urza in fourth. This one was a pretty cool, highly interactive game. Blue Farm got off to a very strong start of like Timna, Lotho, Delny, which kind of forced us to use Bowmaster triggers for Rafine to deal with that board. So I was able to kind of keep my creatures for a little bit longer than some people think I might have should have. Urza got off to a slow start to try and go for then a very explosive combo. At that point, I'd revealed 2 pieces of interaction for the combo. And they also miscounted their mana. So when they had their Hullbreaker and their spell in the stack, I just said, like, are you willing to stop the line and pass here? Leave the Hullbreaker Horror. Rafine didn't really go over something. They continued to set up. Blue Farm continued to set up. It gets back to my turn. I really wasn't planning on going for it here, but it just kind of worked out that way, where we did know we sort of lost to Urza deterministically the following turn. Like, I had counter magic, but they have a Hullbreaker Horror on the battlefield. And so I end up where we need to get rid of their Spellskite because I have a Chain of Vapor. I said I have a way to deal with the Hullbreaker Horror. But to be clear, saying I have a way to deal with the Hullbreaker Horror is not some kind of deal that says I cannot win the game on my turn. It was I had a Chain of Vapor. And so we made a deal that I could hit them each with some Timna attackers because I had a Mockingbird Timna to get Bowmaster triggers so they could ping the Spellskite, and then I'd activate Thrasios for the 4th one. that situation does draw me 4 cards, and those 4 cards were pretty relevant. So I end up, starting to do my thing. We end up fighting over a fucking expedition map so I can try and get Cradle. At this point, I did have like 9 creatures on board because I had some squirrels from a Chatterstorm. I love Chatterstorm.
Nice. Oh, dude,
I
me too.
fluster the pack. A pact was used on my fucking expedition map. I fluster the pact. I get my Cradle, and then I end up trying to put a Wild Growth on my basic because I have an Earthcraft. In response, Blue Farm mini riffs it. I accept that because I have floating green. I cast it. They swan song it. I then fight against the swan song. The Earthcraft resolves. And at this point, I kind of just know that I'm good. So I end up going like Cloud of Fairies, Eternal Witness, Get Back Snap, go for the win. Pretty clean win line there. Was able to sneak it out, which was nice. Round 4, really boring, honestly disappointing game. I'm in the mindset right now where I do not want to really just draw games for no reason. Like, I totally get it if the game gets to a super fucked position late and it's just like what we have to do. I'm all for that. I get that that's part of the game, but people forcing draws early, I'm really not a fan of. And round 4 was an unfortunate situation where, I got off to a very middling start in first seat. I was in first seat again, which was super nice. Second seat had turn 1 land Fish. Third seat was Blue Farm, who had like another middling normal value start. And then fourth seat was Rogsai. Rogsai immediately goes for it. He's able to slam the Nas. The Fish, he slams the Nas on turn 3, not turn 2. And,
Okay.
at this point, the Fish player missed their second land drop. And on turn 3, with like 14 cards in hand, they show a pact negation on the Nas and they say, I just want to offer draw. And this is a situation that, like, I have 2 lands and a Biomancer's Familiar. Blue Farm has, like, a couple lands and a Timna. It's not like either of us is grotesquely far ahead or anything like that. Like, we're just
Right.
playing Magic. And I looked at them and I said, don't you have another counterspell? And they go, yeah, I do, but I'm offering the draw here. I'm going to let it resolve. And they really just forced the draw in that scenario, which I'm personally just not a fan of that style of play. I find it cringe. It's like, we're here to play Magic. I literally flew across the country to play 9 games of Magic at most, 7 games of Magic if you don't make top 16. Like, let's just play some fucking Magic and not do that type of bullshit. That's my preference. But, you know,
Yeah.
they forced the situation and that's what happened. So we drew the game and it was really boring.
I I do wish they, because I think Waffle had a good idea when he in his server of you can't put draws on the stack like during a game. It's only what if it hits a natural time. I wonder if that is maybe the right approach because I do think these prisoner dilemma situations are becoming somewhat obnoxious. Or I've seen some people who say maybe just get rid of Pact, like just take Pact away, because it's such a it's that is usually what it is used for. It feels like
It's a
in a lot of
toxic as
games.
fuck card. I
Yeah,
mean, it's
like
also I've seen it with a Force of Will as well, right? It's not always
yeah,
packed. Like, it is just people saying, "I have this one piece." Like I've been against players who mull to 3 or mull to 4 and will purposely keep Force or packed just to try and
right.
force a draw with it. Like, their entire mission is, I know I'm out of this game. I'm just going to force a draw, which is so dumb.
Which and if you're willing to even go that low in the first place, generally, right, then you should have a game plan to get back in the game. I also agree with you. I hate draws. I can't stand them. I drew a lot when I was playing Marnius, and now I try really, really hard not to take draws if I can help it. I understand the play pattern, right? As long as draws are worth points and they are somewhat better than losing, then people are going to play for draws if they feel like it is to their advantage. But there is probably nothing more frustrating in a cEDH tournament than putting a win on the stack and then having someone say, "Okay, well, if I counter this, we're draw, or I'm just going to not counter this and we all lose," or some,
Yeah,
that
play Magic.
it, it's such a, I don't know. I understand like we don't want to king make people, so I hear that argument, but at the same time, if I push and I don't get there, and you counter me, you didn't king make. I king made by pushing when I probably shouldn't have. I should have waited, right? Like
Yeah,
that's on me at the end of the day. You counter
and
what's
I
on the
think
stack and then what's in front of you.
And I think that's really like the huge problem with what's going on. I'm not going to say any names, but I've seen many really talented Magic players come in with the perspective of, oh, I can just push. And they talk about it. They're like, yeah, I just push really hard. And then if someone has, Blue Farm has a Ristic and then someone else has the last piece of interaction, I just say, cool, don't cast it, just offer the draw. Or, let me win, I'll go infinite and then offer the draw.
Yeah.
And it's like, brother, like that's just not the game we've signed up to play. That's just stupid tournament politics. And I absolutely fucking hate it. We don't need to delve too far into it right now. We might do a video about it sometime soon, I think.
That'd be interesting. I'm
I'd be
sure
open
the
to it.
I'm sure chat would probably love it.
Hopefully, let us know in the comments below if you would like a video on those type of shitty tournament politics and what we think of it. Sneak peek, we don't like it that much. Round five, really not that interesting. It was a weird game where like Atali just didn't kill Blue Farm's Voice of Victory, and so then they won. Shocker, right? And then round six was another like quickly forced draw scenario, which was kind of annoying, but it was reality. I sniped Isaac's turn one gamble in that one. I stay sniping gambles all the time. Round seven was a really cool loss to Kellen. That one was a game that like people were just trying to force draws as well, myself included, because it was just like, it was that late kind of weird position, and it was either someone won or someone won, and we were like, let's just move on. But I mean, Kellen, once again, fighting through everything on Tim Dargo. He showed out both games and was able to push through wins through everything everyone had. It was really, really cool to see. Which takes me to my top 16 game. Top 16 game was a very long one. It was 4.5 hours. There were a couple of short breaks in there for, we literally just like took a break in the middle of the game for 10 minutes. And then throughout the game, there was a couple of slightly longish judge calls over some things they'd like check the cameras for. They didn't believe me that I didn't play a land for turn. I knew I didn't play a land for turn. My draw for turn was a land, and it was the only land in my hand. like, I know I didn't play a land, but they wanted to double check, so we had to spend 15 minutes on it. But overall, it was a really cool game, and really proud of the victory in that one. That one was hard fought for sure. We had Pigeon, first seed overall in the tournament, 23 points, undefeated, and first seed on Rogthras. We had the same Rogside player from my round 4 match in second seed, myself in third seed on Rogthras, and then a Lumra player in fourth seed, which Lumra, as you might remember from our video breaking down decks, absolutely fucking terrifies me. I have so much respect for Lumra. That deck is absolutely crazy. It's underratedly complicated and explosive, and it just does the nuttiest things. It's a really cool deck, and I'm happy it exists in the format, but I am terrified to play against it every time I do.
Did we talk about the fact that people call it Cocaine Bear in our last video? Because I don't feel
No,
like
we
we
did.
talked about that, but I heard it
No.
multiple times this weekend where they're like, "Oh yeah, Cocaine Bear," and I was like, "Brother, that makes so much sense." Like that's
Well, that's the
perfect
name of
name
the main primer list is called Cocaine Bear. So they might have been
I,
saying they're on that list.
either way, I think I just heard people saying Cocaine Bear. Like Lumra is just now Cocaine Bear, and I think that's funny.
Well, have you seen that movie?
Oh yeah, dumb.
It's
It's
such
a
a good
dumb
movie.
movie.
It's so dumb, but it's so good, dude. If anyone hasn't seen Cocaine Bear, you should go watch the movie Cocaine Bear. That shit is hilarious. But yeah, I mean, this game, it was a slow developmental start. Pigeon mulled to 4 or 5. I think it was 5. He kept the hand based on a sudden substitution. Rogsai kept a turn 2 Nas. I kept a hand that was pretty much, it really was not the hand I was looking for, but it was the hand I felt I had to keep. It was 1 land, Mystic Remora, Fierce Guardianship. It was a 7-card hand, but those were the only cards in that hand that mattered. And I said, fuck it against Rogsai, which obviously being after Rogsai kind of sucks there with the turn 1 single land fish. But Lumra is also a deck that from the games I played against it, a lot of times it is slamming out mana rocks and things on turn 1. Like it is playing its Lotus Petals and LEDs and stuff to set up. So I was really hoping to get some draw off of Lumra as well. Didn't happen. It was really slow. I had to use the Fierce Guardianship on Rogsai's turn 2 Nas, and the game just developed really slowly from there. Lumra ended up setting itself up in a position to be able to do a Mirror Pool combo with Lumra, but Pigeon revealed very early this time ain't big enough off of a Thunder Trap trainer. And so just holding up 2 mana for Lumra the whole time, he knew he couldn't go for it. Pigeon was able to quickly play a Clever Impersonator to copy my fish. I then sacked my fish and played a Clever Impersonator. He then let his fish die. I then let my fish die after noxiousing my old Mystic Remora to the top. Then I drew it and I cast it, and he had the sudden substitution for me. And so we kept fighting over these Mystic Remoras, but at the same time, they were drawing us like no fucking cards the entire game. Like it was a very slow progressive game. And this really, like, it had, for being a 4.5 hour game, it probably had the least draw engines actually drawing cards of any 4.5 hour game I've ever seen. Like most games that go this long, it's, oh, there's 3 Ristics, there's some Smothering Ties, there's Espers, there's everything. This game just didn't have that. Like the game had almost no Thrasios activations at all. The Mystic Remoras probably drew less than like 8 cards total the entire game. Like it was really just our natural slow draw progression, and everyone just pointing their fucking guns at each other, saying who's gonna go for it. Like it was just that. Ended up where I was able to half develop kind of one turn cycle where I had a Song of Creation in my hand. And I was kind of looking for ways to maybe push that through. And so finally, after hours and hours and hours, I'm able to get like 4 Thrasios activations before my turn because I was given 1 untap with good mana Thrasio Biomancer. But there was 2 Bowmasters in the fucking battlefield. So like I couldn't really just start activating. I had to wait to. And I decided I thought this might be a window to try and push something. I was willing to sacrifice my creatures and see what I got because I knew that regardless, the second I activate Thrasios, my creatures die. So I might as well just activate the Thrasios and the end step before my turn, deal with the creatures dying, and see what cards I get. And I flipped into Veil of Summer and Breach and like a Soul Ring. Those were the only ones that really mattered, I think, of the 4 draws. I think one was a land. Might be wrong on that one. But so that turn, I started off with the Veil of Summer. And the Veil of Summer gets misstepped. I try and Flare of Denial it, sacrificing the Thunder Trap Trainer that Pigeon gave me off of the sudden substitution. That gets hit by a deflecting swat. I let that go. And then I slam a Breach. And I slam a Breach knowing that my graveyard really doesn't look that great. And it was because I had LED and Gamble in hand. So I was pretty prepared to try and do things with those cards. Was kind of the idea there. Or no, I did not have LED in hand. I had Gamble in hand. No LED, no Brain Freeze, just Gamble.
Pretty much.
But so I knew that Breach would get there still because I had a bunch of cards in yard. I had the mana. Like it in a situation that they didn't have more, it would have got there. And I figured they had some interaction, but at the same time, I'm under the assumption that we've just been draw going and there's not really been extra draws. So they probably can't have that much. And I did have a few pieces. It ends up that while the Breach is on the stack, I do want to talk about this because I've looked through the stream and I understand where the hate comes from on this play. While the Breach is on the stack, the Loomer Prayer pretty much insinuates that he has bestayed you. When I heard that, what my brain said inside of my brain was the normal cEDH thing of, oh, we can have a conversation. Like I'm totally open to taking this back. Because that's something that happens in cEDH. Like if someone, throws a swords targeting your Seedborn and you're like, whoa. Like, let's talk about it for a second. This is the situation. Like, I'm totally open to not doing this, whatever. You're allowed to take those things back. That is just how cEDH works. And so that's what I meant by it was I'm open to a conversation. I am fully aware I've put it on the stack. And if you guys are not comfortable with me taking it back, it's not going to get taken back. I know that. All that my mouth blurted out was, I can take it back, which sounded incredibly matter-of-factly spoken and was grossly misinterpreted from what I meant. But watching the stream, I absolutely understand where people are coming from and how that sounded. I apologize for that. It is in no way how I intended that to be. My intentions were fully, I'm open to a conversation here, like about if it makes sense to take this back, not I'm taking this back no matter what you guys say. That's not what I was trying to do. So that was really misinterpreted. But again, hearing how it sounded, I absolutely understand where the perception comes from.
And for people at home, 4.8, and I think this is a rule that a lot of newer players to cEDH don't understand, especially if you're jumping over from 60 card. Because of the political nature of cEDH, and because you've got 4 people at the table and there has to be kind of time to allow for discussion. Now, we don't have to allow a ton of time for that discussion, but there is a moment when something goes on the stack for everyone to say, okay, hey, let's have a discussion before any new information is revealed. And so in this case, Max is absolutely correct in the fact that, hey, we can have a discussion and I can take this back because there has not really been any new information technically revealed, right? Like
it's a weird middle ground specifically on the information revealed because I've heard different things from different people on like showing someone a card. Because one of the things that does happen really commonly is someone says, show me a counter and I'll take it back. Like that's a really common thing to happen.
Right.
And so I'll toss them the fierce and they'll say, okay, and they'll take it back, right? Like that is showing them a card, which that part of it is a little up for interpretation. I'm not 100% sure what the exact correct thing is here. It would be great to have a judge respond in the chat below and say what's actually correct there. But that's how it's normally interpreted and how it's taken. Like if I show you a counterspell and you want to take it back, like that's the conversation we're having.
And I think that's where I've seen it done as well, right? It's like, yes, I'm technically gaining an advantage, but I'm doing so because the player is choosing to show me that advantage. And I think where your case was a little different was he showed a different player, and then the misinterpretation of you being like, oh, I'm going to take it back. And then the judge ruled against you saying, well, technically you gained an advantage by him showing the other player that. Whereas I think had it been more of a, hey, I don't want to run headfirst to this Besage and waste your interaction on my card that I can't stop. How about let's just talk about it and we don't have to play it out like that.
When I said I can take it back, it was supposed to be phrased as a question more so rather than a statement. And I understand it very much sounded like a statement. So I do genuinely apologize for that. That was a reactionary moment rather than it was a really fucking long game. I asked for a tiny bit of slack there. But so that's what happened in that moment. And once I knew there was a Viseju, and I also knew that Pigeon definitely had some onboard removal or something as well, it sounded like I was kind of in a position because he kind of said to someone he could bounce it. So I figured Chain or something like that, or Otawara, one of the two. And so I decided, okay, before I cast a single other spell, I counted up my mana and I was like, I can do a Mystic Remora here, and then I can try and crack an E-Zone on top of the Viseju, and then hold up the Veil in my graveyard for a Pigeon's bounce spell, was my thought. And so I did that. I put Mystic Remora on the stack first. I was really hoping to just let that resolve, but he immediately threw out the Viseju. Then I try and crack E-Zone, replay Veil. Veil gets countered again by I forget what it was. Was it a Fierce? Veil gets countered again by something. And from that point, I have cracked the E-Zone. They've let that go. And I say, fuck it. I don't think I get another turn here because of the way everyone is set up. Let's flash in the Song Creation, which I figured was so stupid because there's double Bowmaster on the battlefield. That's so unlikely to work. I get like 4 spells here. But my thought was that was why I really needed a Veil to resolve, because then the Bowmasters can't target my face.
Right.
That was my thought process. But then I was hoping I would get to mana to cast Veil again for my graveyard. It ends up that the Song of Creation and my Mystic Remora in the stack get Mindbreak Trapped by Rogsai, which also pretty much confirms to me in this moment they don't got nothing else, was how I viewed it at that time. I knew Pigeon had a piece of onboard removal, and I didn't expect any more out of Rogside. Turns out they also had a Flare Duplication. But so we stopped it there. And at that point, I'm cooked. My Breach is in the graveyard. I get out of Dryad Arbor. And we do need to start killing some of Lumra's cards. So I offer to activate Thrasios and see if I can do this, which I didn't really want to do in this moment. I wanted to leave my Soul Ring in hand because my last cards were like Soul Ring and Gamble. Right. And so I really wanted to leave those in hand. And so I do that. And I agree with them that I will cast the Soul Ring and activate Thrasios here, which does nothing for me, under the premise that my board will untap the way it currently is, which is I have 3 fucking creatures or something like that. And that's it. I have like 2 or 3 creatures and that's it. And like my Breaches in the yard, I have one or 2 cards in hand. I think I had 2 cards in hand. One of them was Gamble. And that's it. So they make this deal with me, and I literally shake both of their hands on this, that my board will not change. They will leave it alone. We go into Lumra's turn, and Lumra is like, I'm fucking sending this shit. They immediately, on the end step, when they activate their Ghost Quarter to try and get a basic, quote unquote, because they have a Root Path Purifier, Pigeon's able to Chain of Vapor the Root Path Purifier, and then Lumra is able to just kind of go the non-deterministic route of seeing what's up, where they play a Shifting Woodlands for turn. They do not have the, what is it called? They do not have the Delirium. And then I forget, I think they played Lumra first, and Lumra milled them into Food Chain in the graveyard. And they had Delirium, which at that point allows them to activate the Shifting Woodlands to get Food Chain, which is not a deterministic line. It is a way to generate more mana and get more Lumra casts. The real piece they were missing here, because they had the Nissa to make the mana off of their lands, they were never able to find an untap effect so that their lands would come into play untapped or untap once they come into play. If they had found one of those pieces, it would have shifted to being a deterministic kill. They ended up casting Lumra several times. Pigeon was keeping track of the commander tax for him. I was keeping track of his Food Chain versus real mana for him. We're trying to help him work through this line. He's doing his thing, and he's just getting really unlucky on these hits. Finally, the one saving grace card he's able to hit out of all this pile, which gets a few lands, but they all come into play tapped, so it doesn't do anything spectacular for him. It doesn't really matter what they are outside of the Lotus Bloom, which the Lotus Bloom lets him keep sacking lands to get more Nissa mana, which was important, but it wasn't enough to make anything anywhere close to deterministic. It was just like a few extra mana on each iteration to help out as Lumra got more expensive. But then he hits a Nature's Rhythm into the yard. And that's the one card that could let him actually get somewhere. And so he's able to, where then what he could do is on his next Lumra thing, he could make sure the Lotus Bloom would sack his, was it Mirror Pool? No, he still didn't have a way to untap. So it still wouldn't have been deterministic. But he taps Lumra to the Nature's Rhythm, says harmonizing with Lumra so I can get any creature in my deck, which is insinuating it's a very large number. And that's where we're able to have Rogsai flash out a Valley Floodcaller. They do a little bit of math, realize they're not able to quite go for a win because Lumra has an endurance for their Cabal Ritual. Otherwise, they would have just gone for a Breach win right there. Pretty unfortunate for him. But so then he submits that he cannot win in this moment and uses a Demonic Council with the Cabal Ritual on the stack to go and get Fierce Guardianship to counter the Nature's Rhythm, which pretty much ends Lumra's turn.
Okay.
From that point, Pigeon is able to go fully hellbent while setting up, Nature's Rhythm into crop rotation, into Seedborn Muse with Thrasios on board. He's hellbent though, so actually not hellbent. He had 2 cards left in hand. Going into his turn, we knew he had Nature's Rhythm and Cyclonic Rift. So he passes to Rogsai's turn, literally with just Cyclonic Rift in hand. Rogsai untaps. Oh, by the way, when they had the Valley Flood call out, their Cabal Ritual Black they used on Necro Dominance was their last card in hand. So, they're set up to go with, I have 30 life, I'm just going to Necrodom and do whatever. They try and swing a giant Orc Army token at Pigeon. Pigeon responds with an overloaded Cyclonic Rift. Now, technically, this overloaded Cyclonic Rift is breaking the deal I had with Pigeon, where my board doesn't get fucked with. I forgot about that in this moment. I could not have given less of a shit, specifically because my entire mindset right now is my only window in this game is untapping and casting that fucking gamble, which I was thinking was going to be like a 50-50 shot. But instead, I'm getting like 7 or 8 permanents back to my hand. So I was like, fuck yeah, you slam that Psych Rift, baby. like, I'm so down. So I untap, draw for turn. I draw Mindbreak Trap, which is pretty convenient. Ended up really mattering. And I just slam a motherfucking gamble. My gamble goes and gets Shifting Woodlands. I decided was better than Eternal Witness because I decided it got hit by less things. If I had to go like Eternal Witness into Breach and stuff like that. So I just wanted to reduce the chance of getting hit by interaction. Unfortunately, I forgot to check if I had Delirium. So I realized I did not have Delirium, but I had fetch lands on board that I hadn't cracked because of a Yavimaya and being out of fetchables. So I was able to just crack one of the fetch lands to put a land in the graveyard to get Delirium. So that worked out totally fine. Fortunately, on my gamble, I discarded Green Suns, which was not mana. It was an irrelevant card, which was as good as it could possibly go. And then I try and set myself up more efficiently. And I try and play a Phyrexian Metamorph from hand in an attempt to clone Pigeon's Spellseeker so that I can go get Brain Freeze, because that's just going to be a way more efficient way of doing what I'm attempting to do. Right. Pigeon smartly responds by activating a Thrasios to kill his Spellseeker, gets an irrelevant card. At this point, I am fully aware that his hand is Brain Freeze, Displacer Kitten, and Flusterstorm. Like, that's all he has for me. And so I just have to beat this Fluster. So I end up deciding after the Spellseeker dies to have my Phyrexian Metamorph come in as Rog-sized Mana Vault. I then use that mana to play my own Mana Vault, Soul Ring, a Mox Opal, which I know, increasing the storm count for the Flusterstorm. How could I? And then I cast the Gamble from the Yard, to which Pigeon correctly responds with his Flusterstorm, thinking he's got me pretty cooked here, because they even had Rogsai flash out Valley Floodcaller and Mox Diamond again. And I say, cool, I would like to just hard cast this Mindbreak Trap, which is able to get rid of all the copies and means that my gamble resolves. That gamble goes and gets me Brain Freeze. And then I Brain Freeze 11 times and it hits me both LED and Lotus Petal. So from there I have it locked up because I'm in a position that Loomer's hand is revealed. It's one irrelevant card. Pigeon's hand is Displacer Kitten and Brain Freeze. Rogsai's hand at this point is Silas and Necrodominance. So I know I'm 100% in the clear and able to win the game. They did make me play it out, so I did it as meticulously as humanly possible, manually brain freezing them out and making sure to do myself a few times each time just to avoid anything going wrong, while leaving up extra mana for stuff like Mindbreak Trap and Pack Negation and stuff like that if they magically had a card that appeared in their hands or some sorts. So I was able to win my semifinals game. It was a really long, grindy one, but overall a good game of Magic, and I'm proud of the accomplishment there to go into the Final Four at another major event and to do it on a different deck again. Or I guess I did top 4 the Heisenberg with Rockdass, but that one was a 100 something person event, and this one was a like almost 280 person event or something like that. So a little bit different in sizing overall, and we were obviously the last of the top 16 games to finish. So I got to run around and spend 20-30 minutes looking for food because I was starving at this point after an almost 5-hour game, and then quickly take my top 4 photos, which, I mean, it was a really sick pod. I got to be against Andy, who's a really good friend of mine, Kellen, who I've known literally for 2 fucking years. I'm so proud of the guy for taking it home, and a player I never met before except for my round 5 match against him, Dylan, who was an awesome player on Blue Farm. And so, excited for a really cool game here. And we all kept first 7, which is a super rare thing to see at any tournament game, let alone a finals game, was super sick. Andy specifically said that he kept a very risky line on Blue Farm. And his line turned out to be land, Dark Ritual, Mana Vault, Exile Summon Spirit Guide, Gamble. But conveniently, he has 5 mana with 2 of them black held up. And he's obviously gambling for Nas. Turn 1 on the play. And I hit him with my usual, let me pick that discard, baby boy.
Oh no, no, no! I want you.
Andy knows my record on gambles. This was no surprise to him. He decides to risk it for the biscuit. And this is actually a great moment. Kellen even texted me earlier today to let me know he rewatched the game and loved the showmanship in this moment. I look away while Andy shuffles his cards. He lays them out on the table in front of me. I rest my hands on them. I feel what the bones are telling me. And then I separate them, revealing one, flip that motherfucker down, and it's his goddamn ad nauseum every fucking time. We don't miss out here. I did not miss a single gamble snipe this entire weekend. I hit every single motherfucker who let me pick. You should always let me pick your gambles because statistically, I have to start missing now for it to average out. So it's correct to let me pick your gambles to then hit the statistical average of me missing all the time coming up.
This is how it gets you, chat. Don't listen. This is daunting style too. I promise. If you just don't listen, things go better for you.
You should let me pick your gamble discard. It's way more fun if you let me pick your gamble discard. That is
for only one person. For only one person. This is how it begins. I promise.
But I was in fourth seat here against 3 purple decks. I'm not going to try and be the control player here. I'm going to leave it up to the blue farms was my thought in my mulligans. I didn't know Andy was going to do that fucking shit, so might have changed how I did it a little bit. But I kept a hand that was just like Cradle with Mox Diamond and some mana, and I was like, cool, I'm going to do this. So I set up a ton of mana on turn 1 and turn 2, and then I think it was my literal turn 3 top deck was just fucking Rhystic Study, and I was like, yes. Like, what a phenomenal top deck. It was actually really funny. I think I fetched and I saw Rhystic Study was in my top 4. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. And then, oh, no. I think I played Growing Rites of Itlamok. Rhystic Study was in my top 4. And then the next turn I fetched. And when I shuffled and then like drew, my next card was Rhystic Study. And Kellen cut it. I said, thank you, brother. I appreciate your beautiful hands and what they've done there. Kellen, though, this man got off to a fucking diabolical start. This man was like land, Chromox, Lotus Petal, Timna on turn 1 into like Bowmaster turn 2. He has Altar of Dementia and Breach in his opening fucking hand. Like he just draws a shitload of cards with Timna, hitting all 3 of us on every fucking turn. Plays out Relic and Bergie. Like this man is fucking going wild. It was so clear he was ahead in this game. And then his final winning turns, I guess we call it, because there was a final fortune involved. I unfortunately tapped out because I had to clone this Bowmaster. Kellen fucking hates Rogthras, and he decides he just fucking hits Rogthras creatures no matter what, even when there's Timnas on the board. I'm not going to say if I think it's correct or not. I don't think it is, but like that man's doing what works for him, so I'm not going to question it.
You can't question the guy who won, right? I mean, at the end of the day,
obviously that means his word is gospel. There is nothing he can do no wrong. I mean, honestly, Kellen can do no wrong. He's like such a fucking sweetheart and like genuinely a nice, wonderful human being. This guy's a math teacher. He's just trying to raise up the next generation. This is a fucking homie we're talking about here. And I will say, of all the people to lose to, I am always happy to lose to a homie on a not fucking meta ass deck playing in their hometown fucking tournament. Like that's what's up. If you're ever going to win a tournament, that is the tournament to win. Win your hometown event on your dope ass fucking brew. Like it's not, Tim and Dargo used to be more common, but like that man has been grinding that deck for years now. Like that is the deck he was on when I met him 2 years ago. And we are in a meta that people say you can't win without blue. And he's showing them the fuck up. Like that is a genuine massive accomplishment. And I'm extremely proud of him. He played phenomenally. Really, the only thing I did wrong in this game was when I had a Bowmaster, I forced Andy's hand on when I pinged his Timna, so he swatted it. Which, like, genuinely, it's so unfortunate. If I had not done that, he has the swat for the Dualcaster Mage copy of Fierce, and then we have the Swan Song for the Breach, and then I untap with full Breach combo in hand and win the game. Which would have been so sick, but instead, I called Andy's bluff, which was a total mistake.
Never call Andy's bluff.
I will never call Andy's bluff again. If that motherfucker says he's going to swat your Bowmaster ping, he's going to swat your motherfucking Bowmaster ping. Like 100%, dude. He's totally going to do it. So that was really unfortunate. That was really, really unfortunate. I did not think Kellen was going to have that many pieces. Like once we stopped the altar the first time, that was when I really thought I was going to pass my turn. I did not have any indication in my mind that motherfucker was just also going to have Underworld Breach in hand. Like he really just drew into every combo piece in his deck in the first like 7 draws. It was just Altar, Relic, Bergie, Breach, like fucking everything. That hand was gross as shit. Mardu, baby. Mardu summer is back. Right in time, dude. It's about to be summer again. Mardu summer is
That's
back.
perfect. It's
Yeah.
perfect.
So that shit was gas. Really fun tournament overall. I had a great time. I mean, as I said in the interview after round 3, like Magic has been really fun again. It's been really positive. It's been a really good time, and yeah, I've been having a blast playing Rockgrass. I think I'm gonna stay on it for a little bit. I do miss Kinnan quite a bit. Where part of me is just like, just go play one of these next 2 events on Kinnan because I'm gonna be in Arizona this weekend. 2 weeks later, I have the tournament here, so like one of them I might just bring back Kinnan because I miss the baby boy. But Rockgrass has been really, really fun, and it's doing a great job. And specifically, I'll once again say, because it's a big topic with Rockgrass, like Breach has felt phenomenal. I won a lot of my games with Breach.
I pulled out Breach in one of the redemption games, and it felt really good. So
Yeah,
I'd agree. I think
so
it
it's a
just gives
super,
you more
super good time.
flexibility, right? It's you're
Mhm.
not just stuck.
The agnosticness of Breach is genuinely its strength. Again, the games I'm doing this are games that I don't have creatures on board.
Yeah.
like normally in Rockgrass, you need to have a board presence unless you're going for Breach. And I love that Breach gives us that flexibility of just having a separate game plan with a really small card package to make it work. And it's also just happens to be the most powerful win condition in the format.
Yeah. Yes, it does. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Do you want to get into some of what went down this weekend overall?
I guess let's address the first controversy from our own tournament, right? Temujin caused quite a stir in the community for different reasons. Max and I are in the same boat where we don't want to talk too much on it and try to stir the drama a little bit, but we did feel compelled a little bit to touch on it because I did play in the Invitational. I think the first thing I want to say is for the people who are going after Wayne, who is the tournament organizer for Land Go events, uh,
Fuck
he is
off.
one of yeah. Max said it better than I could have. He is one of the nicest, kindest people who has put a lot of work into cEDH. He does not make any money doing this. I want to be very clear about that. Like his margins are either non-existent or impossibly slim, and he does it because he loves cEDH. He loves the players. Been very wonderful to work with and to talk to. I think he was super nice to just about everyone, this weekend. I understand people disagree with the decision to allow Temujin to play, but I really feel like you are going after the wrong person here. People need to remember cheating players is not something that is unique to cEDH. We are less than a year ago where Simon had the cheating issue around MH3 where they were talking about did he cheat in that final round? I mean, this is the champion for modern, and there's a lot of controversy around whether he cheated or not. We're less than a year away from Bart Van Etten getting DQ'd again from from the Pro Tour for cheating. So this is not just some unique phenomenon, and that's all that is owned by one entity, right? Wizards of the Coast controls all that. In cEDH, we have all these different tournament organizers who are all loosely collectively together. But I mean, some of them talk to each other, some of them don't. And you're asking them all to come together and have one universal ban list, right? Because Top Deck doesn't have a universal ban list. There's no group that's coming together saying like these are the players banned for cEDH. That doesn't exist because there isn't a collective that runs all of cEDH anymore. And so because of that, you're kind of asking TOs to make these one-off designations. And for this one, Temujin did approach Wayne, was very, was very remorseful for these actions and asked for permission to play in there, never shied away from his past, what happened. And so Wayne made the decision to allow him to play. And I understand people are going to be critical of that decision, but I think their anger is misplaced by going after a TO who's done nothing but wonderful things for the community.
Yeah, hard agree.
In terms of the Temujin controversy, Max, I think why don't you start with this topic because I think you're a little bit more passionate to your approach to it.
I want to start by saying I hate cheating. I am a huge advocate for fair and honest play, right? I'm one of the things I'm known for is never breaking a deal, never lying in a game. Like I love fair, honest magic. I hate cheating. It is a diabolical, disgusting thing to do. It is something that just hurts people for no reason and that you should regret forever when you do it, right? It's a terrible thing to do. And Temujin made that choice in September of 2024. And I will give the honest context here. Temujin is a friend of mine. He is someone that I know fairly well at this point. And so that's why I feel comfortable saying the things that I am about to say, because it's not just me speaking about, some random player who cheated and how I feel about it. It's speaking about how I know this specific person has handled the situation. And I will not get into any details about this man's personal life, but there was stuff going on when that decision was made in September. And he made that choice. He immediately recognized what he did. He was incredibly forthcoming and honest about it. I've never seen of all of my, which I used to be one of the people that would go through video footage in the Chaos and Mox Masters tournament days and help people find cheaters. And I called several of the cheaters personally before information was revealed to the public, and I would ask them to give them a chance to talk about it before anything was made public. And every single one of them lied to me on the phone, just absolutely wouldn't say anything about it until the videos were shown. Then they'd message me, I'm sorry. Temujin was from the start forthcoming, honest, regretful, remorseful. Exactly the perfect way to handle that situation from just a point of being honest about what occurred. He handled it as good as possible. And I know a lot of people are really upset that he played in a tournament in Texas that was fairly large just a few weeks later, like 2.5 weeks later. And to be clear, that is a tournament that before he made that decision in late September and he made that choice to cheat, he had already committed personal funds to this event. And I'm not saying that's an excuse. I'm saying that's a reality, that he had devoted money towards travel and hotel and unrefundable things to go and play in this event. And so he took it upon himself to contact the tournament organizer, tell them incredibly clearly and honestly what had happened, how he had cheated, everything that had occurred, and asked for permission to play, saying 100% respect if you don't want me there. Like, absolutely, if that's your decision, I respect it. I'm just asking, and then I'll make a choice after you say if it's okay or not. He wasn't even sure if he was going to go. Like, it was something that he hemmed and hawed over because he wasn't sure if he felt comfortable doing it. They ended up giving him permission to play, again, because he was incredibly forthcoming and honest about what occurred. And like, he did genuinely seem highly remorseful in his actions. And so they gave him permission to play, and he ended up deciding to go because he had the personal money invested. Didn't do that well in it. And then did he ever receive some large official ban of any kind? No, but this guy banned himself. Like, he did not play for months and months and months after this. It was 4 months until his next tournament afterwards. And at that point, he played in his local event, Snowy Summit. Like, he's a Colorado native, and twice a year we have a big tournament here. That was his first step back in, where he decided to see, how that felt. And he played in that tournament, didn't do very well. And, from the conversations I had with him, he decided he still wasn't ready to come back yet. It wasn't quite time. And so he took time off again after playing in Snowy Summit. And then beginning of May, after it had been 7.5 months since the incident, he decided to try a local tournament here in Colorado Springs, where me and him played in top 4. He won. Dude was in awesome spirits. It was so good to see him happy again. And like, he was, again, very open and honest about what occurred, the personal growth he'd had since then, like how he had fixed his headspace, all that kind of stuff. Like, that's seeing someone be so forthcoming and so committed to trying to make positive changes in their life and their position in the community, and being so honest and straightforward with TOs and judges and the player base. Like, I can't imagine a better way to handle the situation, right? Like, people talk all the time about like, oh, everyone should have a path to redemption. Everyone deserves a second chance in life. And people are coming at the guy like he has just done nothing but be a shit about it, or like say it doesn't fucking matter. Like, no, he has shown honest, deep regret in his actions. He has been as forthcoming and clear to every possible party about what happened as you could ever ask anyone to be. I literally cannot imagine in my brain someone making the mistake and the choice that he made, handling it better afterwards. Like, that's what's different to me about this. It's not just the fact that I know him as a person, but I've seen how he's handled it. And he's been as honest and open and remorseful as you could possibly be, and desires to be accepted back, and really wants that second chance. And so after he won that small event in Colorado Springs, that was a Black Lotus Invitational. So now he had access to the Invitational, something he had no plans to go for at any point. Even right afterwards, he wasn't sure if he was going to do it. It wasn't something he was sure he was going to be comfortable with. And so, like you said, he contacted Wayne. And as he had done with every other judge in TO, he was honest, he was forthcoming. He told them everything that had happened, how long it had been, what he'd been up to since then, the changes he'd been making, the positive pushes he's had. And they, I think rightly, made the choice to say, okay, I mean, everything you're telling me here, like, I'm going to let you play in this event. Like, you seem like you regret your actions and you want to come back in this community as a positive force. So Wayne let him play. So this man, on like a week's notice, decides to drive across the country to Nashville, Tennessee, picking up and playing the Rogthras deck that we'd talked about and he had never played until 2 days before. And this motherfucker takes down the goddamn Black Lotus Invitational. Right? Like, I get people's frustration. I get that people hate cheaters. all of that is so fucking valid, right? Their negative emotions and their frustration towards it, it's not that any of those feelings are wrong. They're completely fair to have. But I think if we're saying to ourselves, you should never judge a person from a singular choice they make in their life. And we're saying that everyone deserves a second chance and everyone deserves some path to redemption. There's no one who's laid a better path. Like, he's handled this so well. I can't imagine there being a better handling of the situation besides honesty, remorse, time off by your own fucking accord, letting everyone know what's up and being so forthcoming about it, and then trying to come back in a positive light. And sure, maybe it was a little forced into the limelight because he won one of the biggest tournaments ever, like immediately after coming back. I get that. But yeah, I absolutely think the dude should have been allowed to play. I think he's handled himself incredibly well, and I'm happy to see him back because Temujin is genuinely, I mean, fuck the cheating incident. Like, just pure magic skill, that man is top 10 world. Like, Temujin is a phenomenal magic player who we deserve and want in this community. That is the type of players we want to play against. We are begging to play against people at that level. And so I'm overjoyed to have him back, right? He whooped my ass in that finals at the local in Colorado Springs, and I was happy to see it, and I was happy for him. So, you know, that's my quick opinion on the topic.
You know, and we see this differently, right? And I know we do. And we've talked a lot about it since that discussion. I think the more I've thought about it, and the more I formulate my opinions on, because my knee jerk, and you were there for my knee jerk, was not positive. I was very frustrated that, you know, all the work that I've done over the last year, and for the other people that were in the Invitational, you know, to go and to know that someone who cheated less than a year ago was able to take it down. And they did not walk away with the Black Lotus. I think that's also a misconception. There was a split, right? I believe there was a split at top 4. So he did not walk away with the Black Lotus. They did split the prize. But to you know, walk away as the champion, it was frustrating. It was, okay, if the punishment for cheating is I have to voluntarily sit out for some time, do a couple tournaments that I've already, you know, done, and then, I get to win a Black Lotus, I think that, you know, for a lot of people, that's the same knee jerk they're probably having. It's the same one I had, right?
Totally fair.
My frustration is there was no real ban, right? Like, at the end of the day, he had this self-punishment. And I think that is a valid frustration for a lot of people, is there was no real consequence for his actions, right? Did he return the prize that he took from that store?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
He did? Okay. So for people who were criticizing that, you know, he did return that. But that was a critique that was out there. You know, a lot of cheaters, they did not ever return their prizes. So, you know, they stole basically from those stores. And I feel like that's, you know, one of those things that people get really frustrated about as well. You know, you take away from the players who put money into that event. And it does create a specter around every event that they attend for the future, because there is that idea that once a cheater, always a cheater, right? If you're willing to cheat over a tiny local, what is to stop you from cheating over a prize that is much bigger? You know, there is that thing, though, that it does create a specter of the tournament, right? And there's always going to be those thoughts in the back of people's heads where they're like, you know, this wasn't fair. He should have been more punished. He shouldn't be allowed to have access to it. And I think I'm not in the camp of there should never be a path back. I think the more I formulate my thoughts, I think initially I was in that camp that you should not ever be allowed back. But I do think there has to be a more formal path back. And it can't just be, hey, I voluntarily took some time off and now I'm going to start playing again. I do think the minimum needs to be a year to start. And I think, you know, probably a 2-year ban from any top events, right? Give them a year to prove that you can play in a non-cheating level, right? Bronze, silver, gold events, play those. And then if you've proven that, hey, I'm not a cheater anymore, I've learned my lesson, I'm playing fairly and by the rules, then you have earned the opportunity to then be back in the Invitational, get to play at those platinum and diamond level events. Because at the end of the day, right, this is not a right. Playing cEDH is not a right that is given to you. It is not some God-given thing that you get. It is a privilege to be a part of this community. And when you abuse that privilege, there has to be some kind of punishment. And it cannot be, I'm choosing to give you this, I'm choosing to do this punishment onto myself. I think it has to be something that comes from the community and says, you're a cheater now. You need to sit out for a year. Then you need to take time proving that you're not a cheater. And that time cannot be by coming around and winning one of the biggest prizes that's ever been given out. And even though they split, right, like that was a lot of people's knee-jerk reaction. I do not believe that the EDH Top 16 labeling of cheater is an appropriate way to handle it. I do think it needs to be. I think that's going to create more problems in the long run.
Yeah,
and I've already seen.
Yeah.
there's already other people getting caught up in there. I think Nilston now has also been labeled a cheater. And I understand he has a history, but he is, as far as I know, years removed from his. Even by any standard, he would have been allowed back into the community. So I think that we're going down a slippery slope here, right? I don't think we need to go to branding people for these things. I just think there needs to be a better group, and I think Top Deck has already come out with something to allow TOs to do it, but there needs to be an organization, some organization between the TOs to talk about these kind of players and offer a viable rule set to, hey, if you cheat, here's the punishment, and then here is the road back for the first time offense. If you do it twice, you should just be gone.
Oh, I think so. I'm a believer that first punishment is like whatever we decide it to be as a community or whatever that is. Like first punishment should be something that's like it's a notable thing, but I don't think it should be like years. I think that that's a bit far, right? Like 6 months, 8 months, 1 year, whatever we decide it to be. I think it should be in probably that range. I think second time is like you're fucking done.
Second time shows that you're just gonna. Second time shows you're going to do it every single time.
But I want to say I agree with what you're saying on, I think having some type of universal awareness of cheaters is a positive. I think that having some type of outlined path back in terms of like an understanding of what the punishment should be, how much time it should be, all of that I think is a positive. And it's something I think we should have for the future. And I think that if we use this moment and the situation with the Temujin as a catalyst to build that type of structure, that's all a positive. But I think that hating on Temujin for handling it the way he did, which was, from my opinion, as good as you could have possibly handled it when that roadmap did not exist at his time, is bullshit, right? It's not fair to hate on someone for not following a roadmap that did not exist. His roadmap was be honest, take time off, come back and play.
I think at the end of the day, right, people need to remember, these are real people. These are not just internet entities that you can scream at. It's not just a name on a screen. Temujin made a choice. It was the wrong choice. And that choice did have consequences for him. It might not feel like it. And I don't think that going on a website and branding that person a cheater, I just don't think that's where the community wants
Your
to
wife's
be.
a lawyer.
The first thing she said was, that's kind of weird. That could be libel. She's like, but I'm not touching anything legal with a 10-foot pole until I pass the bar. I was like, that's fair. I understand. But like, I mean, my eyebrow was very much raised. I don't know that that's necessarily a positive step for the community, right? Because
I think having some universal ban list of like, hey, a store can make a post in there and say this player, this email cheated at my event in this way and write about it. I think that's a positive.
Yeah. Because of, again, the issue we talked about at the beginning of all these different TOs and all these different event organizers that are kind of disparate, they talk, but do they talk enough? I think that's kind of one of the issues that they're going to have to figure out if we're going to move forward. I mean, a lot of this stuff needs to happen anyway, right? As we grow and cEDH continues to grow, a lot of these organizations are going to have to start coalescing together anyway, so that we aren't just one disparate group of TOs, but we're one functioning organization that has, a really good way of doing things. And I think I understand people are upset. And I was upset too. And I don't like cheaters, and I will never condone cheating. At the end of the day, people are still people, and we should treat them with as much respect as we can and try to find a better path forward for the community.
Last thing we want to touch on today is just the 11-hour finals game. Neither of us watched the stream because or did you watch any of it?
No.
I mean, overall, I don't think we need to go too deep here. There's been a ton of discussion about it pretty much everywhere. 11 hours per finals, for my opinion, is ridiculous. There is no combination of circumstances that should ever, within the rule sets of slow play and reasonable pace of play and anything else, ever allow that to happen. That is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, even my top 16 game was 4.5 hours. If you go back to that screen, there is some slow play. There are some things that definitely could have been sped up there, and judges should have been calling that 100%. Like, games just should not have to take that long. And yeah, there's some games that end up with lots of risk studies and things in a crazy fucking 100-card stack. Sure, those games can take 3, 4, 5 hours. I've seen all of that, but I have never seen fucking 11. And that is too much. And in my opinion, that is just a bad showing by the tournament organizers and judge staff, if I have to be brutally honest there. That's the point where you have to step in and start pushing actions. And I've seen a judge push actions before. I've seen it be late night at a tournament when they know that it's time to go and things are closing down, and they start pushing actions, and they come to the table and they say as a judge, we are running out of time here. This is going to have to go more quickly. I'm going to start calling slow play much more aggressively. I've had a judge communicate that to us before, right? And I'm talking like I drew a card for turn, looked at it for 15 seconds, and he said, make a fucking action. Not with the fucking, but he said, make an action. And I'm like, brother, chill. And he's like, make an action or I'm going to call slow play. And I'm like, holy crap. Like that has happened to me. And that's probably what they should have done there.
I'm not an official judge. I've tried to be, but I've had trouble getting in contact with people from the judge foundry. But I have judged some small locals where the store can't afford a judge, so they just ask, "Hey, do you mind? We know who you are, and you're the tournament organizer, so do you mind just stepping into the judge role?" I'm like, "Sure, I will do my best. I cannot guarantee I will be successful because I'm no expert on the rules, but I will try my best." And even there was a top 16 that was starting to go long, and I sat over there and I was like, "Cool, priority to you." And then they're like, oh, "Okay, well, I need time to think." I'm like, "All right, you get a little bit of time. Cool? No, it's time to take a game action. Fast priority. If you're not going to take a game action, well, let's go. Priority's you. No priority." At a certain point, you just have to sit there and move the game along. And I do think the judges absolutely lost control of this game. And I know there's been mostly criticism of the players, a little bit of criticism of the TO and the judges. I don't want to touch too much on the criticism of the players, but I do think the judges absolutely lost control of this game. There should have been slow play. The rules, the untimed rules are there, but that doesn't necessarily mean slow play doesn't exist.
They literally say at the beginning of every single top 16, yes, this is untimed. Slow play will still be called very aggressively. Like they put that in the context every single time.
I will be curious to see what comes out of this in terms of like judge updates and stuff like that. But I do think this was a failing of the judge staff more than anything else, right? Player behavior aside, opinions on that, whatever, the judges should have stepped in and this game would have ended significantly sooner.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I'll say you can leave this in. I've been contacted by several TOs since this weekend to ask for my personal opinion on if there were to be a time limit on untimed rounds, what should that time limit be? And if it comes to that time, what should the tiebreakers be? I'm not going to get into that discussion right now, but I'm just going to say that conversation is being had because this was a pretty ridiculous situation.
Yeah. And that's sad, right? Because at the end of the day, this is a significant outlier. The longest I've ever even heard of a game going is like 5.
Yeah.
Maybe 5.5. I don't think I've ever heard of a game going, anywhere past 6.
I mean, Waffle's top 16 at Heisenberg was a little over 5. My top 16 in this last event was 4.5.
And that was a yappy game. That Heisenberg game was yappy as hell.
Yeah,
deal making out the
Gold Sabertooth and Waffle. I think that's all we're going to talk about today. We'll be back next week. We have some really fun stuff planned up for you guys. We are being a little bit more active on the Discord again. A link to that will be in the description below. We are also going to be restarting the Patreon. We have coaching tiers and various other tiers within there. A link to that will also be in the description below. My name is Max Sternberg, also known as Wounded Satellites. I do offer cEDH coaching. You can find me on Discord, Twitter, any of that to hit me up for that. And I'm joined by my beautiful, amazing, wonderful co-host who will now give his own pitch as a cEDH coach. Tell them about yourself, Jordan.
Oh, yeah. Do you want coaching from a guy who loses Black Lotus Invitationals? I got you. I'll tell you the best way to lose, how to not catch the culling rituals. No, in all seriousness. I do offer cEDH coaching as well. I've been doing it mostly for more local people, though I've had some TNT players reach out, of course. So for those who are just now tuning in the show, I did win the Boil 2. That's probably the biggest accomplishment of my cEDH career thus far. I'm ranked 11th, I think, after this weekend on the top deck leaderboards, and I don't even want to talk about my elo, but it's probably somewhere in the 40s. Maybe fell hard. I don't actually remember. Well, let's pretend it's in the 40s still, because that makes me feel better. It was 10 at one point.
You were top 10. You were top 10. I remember those days.
I was top 10. So if you want to coach, from someone who's washed up, I got you. I'm also
and if you want coaching from someone who's in the fucking prime of their career.
I'm more fun, though. So if you want fun coaching, I got you.
Fair. Well, thank you so much for listening to the Colors of Crutch podcast. We appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Have a good one, guys.